Terence Crawford must sign with PBC to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight, says Eddie Hearn. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. So, the super promoter Eddie Hearn believes that Terence Bud Crawford must sign with Al Haymon's PBC Boxing if he wants to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight happen anytime soon. Now, I just wanted to give my take on what I think about that. Now, he gave him a lot of good reasons why he feels like Al Haymon won't risk the fight or won't put up the money to make the fight unless Terence Crawford signs with him. But Hearn feels that Al Haymon doesn't really want to sign Crawford because he doesn't produce a gate outside of the city of Omaha, Nebraska, which is a very interesting conversation to make. You know, I spoke a little bit about that a couple of videos ago that, you know, Terence Crawford's kind of like a local guy. But in Omaha, Nebraska, he's a superstar. You know, he can fill an arena with 18,000 people. Now, I had no doubt in my mind that he could achieve that in his home state or in his home city. The problem is, if you take him out of his home city and he's the headliner, does he produce those same results? And Eddie Hearn feels like that's the reason Al Haymon didn't want to risk the money to try to sign Terence Crawford. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? Is Terence Crawford actually worth the investment on behalf of PBC? You know, should PBC actually be investing in Terence Crawford after what they saw happen in Omaha, Nebraska at the Shy Arena? You know, I think that's a loaded question in a lot of ways. I think that Eddie Hearn made some excellent points. He said that the risk factor involved in Errol Spence losing the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA titles to Terence Crawford is a little bit too much for Al Haymon, knowing that he doesn't have any control over Terence Crawford. Knowing that if Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence Jr., it's going to be a problem trying to put the rematch on. You know, I would have to agree, but at the same time, I don't think Terence Crawford wins. Now, Eddie Hearn has a different opinion. He says after seeing what he saw Crawford do to Avanesyan, he feels like Crawford beats Errol Spence Jr., which is extremely interesting because if you go off what he said last time about Terence Crawford, he said that Terence Crawford couldn't sell 10,000 pay-per-view buys. And now he didn't mention a winner of the fight. He just said Terence Crawford couldn't generate is the reason why he couldn't get the Errol Spence fight. But he gave his prediction of how the fight would end up. And he said that he feels like Terence Crawford would beat Errol Spence Jr. But the problem to him is that it's a risk for Al Haymon if Terence Crawford wins. You know, it's a risk because he has no control over Crawford. You know, I would have to agree with that part. You know, that's the biggest risk in the equation. Now, I don't think, in my mind, I don't think Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence. After seeing what I saw in the Avanesyan fight, I didn't see anything special that made me go, you know what, this guy gives Errol Spence a lot of problems in the boxing ring. I don't even think, to be honest, he gives Errol Spence any problems, especially off of what I saw in the Avanesyan fight. I saw Crawford starting off really slow. I saw Crawford getting hit a lot, and I saw opportunities I feel like Errol Spence would seriously take advantage of. It seemed like Terence Crawford is bothered by pressure fighters. It seems like if you can be in his face and you're throwing punches. Now, we know Errol Spence packs a much bigger punch than David Avanesyan. So there's no doubt in my mind if Errol Spence is in Crawford's face, pressing him and hitting him a lot, it's going to be a different type of fight. And I don't think Bud possesses the power to knock a guy like Errol Spence Jr. out. I mean, you barely even see Errol Spence get hit, which is, you know, it's kind of an anomaly because he's such a slow-moving fighter. But I think you rarely see him get hit because he works everything off that jab, and you have to move around that big, long jab of Errol Spence to actually hit him. So I think you know, most fighters in the pursuit of trying to get around their jab, they end up getting hit and hit a lot. Now, there's going to be even more fireworks with the fact that both of these guys are southpaws and not being taken at face value for what it is, because, you know, it's not going to be like Terence Crawford can just get in there and switch to southpaw and take advantage of Errol Spence like he's never seen that style or something. It's not going to be that. I think whoever has the better jab is going to win the fight. And you saw Terence Crawford try to work his jab in a lot, but the problem with Terence Crawford's jab, it's not a hurting jab. Errol Spence's jab is a hurting jab. He can jab you and hurt you. Terence Crawford's just throwing those, you know, training jabs out there to keep you at bay, and then he's trying to throw power within his combinations. I don't think that works on Errol Spence Jr., and I definitely feel like it is a risk for PBC. You know, and here's how I'm going to finish this off. For all you people saying that Terence Crawford shouldn't have signed the contract and saying that he was given a slave's deal, listen, PBC is taking 100% of the risk. PBC is putting up the money to make the fight. They're securing the venue. They're going to have to pay Terence Crawford a guarantee. They got to make sure Errol Spence gets paid because that's their fighter. Not only that, they're risking the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA title against Terence Crawford. If they lose, they have no more welterweight belts. I can understand them not wanting to pay Terence Crawford a guarantee when you're putting up all of that risk. If Terence Crawford actually beat Errol Spence, just think about how much PBC loses in that fight. You know, does it make sense for them to overpay Terence Crawford, knowing that he doesn't produce a gate anywhere? And basically what you're doing by making that fight, and if Terence Crawford wins, you're giving him a ticket to popularity. You're giving him access to what he doesn't have access to right now, which is putting up big numbers in venues in cities outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Now, if he was to beat Errol Spence Jr., become the undisputed champion of the world, then it opens every gate up for him across the United States. Now, why would you overpay Terence Crawford for that type of opportunity? It doesn't make sense. It seriously doesn't make sense. Now, you can say what you want to say about PBC, Al Haymon, and Errol Spence, that they're the ones holding up the fight. And I would have to totally disagree, because they're the ones risking everything. And if the fight is going to be made, Terence Crawford is going to have to put up some type of risk or sign to a different promotional company. There's no way they're going to let him do that as an independent unless he takes less money and let them dictate the fight, or he signs with another promotional company that can bear some of the brunt of them putting that fight on in case they do lose. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me, share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. And we are live.
Let's go. 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 Yo, it's sorta like NASCAR. How these niggas take wheels off of fast cars, we not right. About to shine like dandruff and neon lights. Know you feel the shit that we on, right? I got your bitch and she's on pipe, taking pictures of herself. And if you're really slanging, you're snitching on yourself, jerk. So look at it that way. While I'm looking at your rat from the back way, then I'm looking for a black in the ashtray. But if that black ain't freak, you can keep it thinking rap ain't heat. You was sleeping, I attack that beat. I'm the reason. Something hit your dome, now you're sleeping. Worse than the chrome when you're beefing. Something get thrown, now you're leaking. Game coming out when I'm speaking. Tell you dang, picking bone for the evening. Bet I leave alone by the weekend. Now let's go. Let's go. My Nashville niggas. Let's go. My Nat Town niggas. Let's go. Cincinnati. Let's go. Nigga, let's go.